Tonight on News 5 Live, horrifying home invasion caught on camera. The armed robbers terrorized the family and attempted to kidnap their youngest. New diplomatic appointments are announced. A new Elections and Boundaries chairperson is appointed. And we take a look at the history of the alleged police involvement in drug trafficking. And gyms in the COVID era. We'll show you what they look like today. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being
Dickie is my good friend.
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Tuesday, February 2nd. I am Marlene Cuellar. Like the brazen killing of shopkeeper Abel Bardales last Friday, on Monday night, armed masked thieves entered the home of a Belizean tax collector on Monday night and not only ransacked the place, stole jewelry and a gun, but also tied up the family and attempted to kidnap a 1-year-old baby. Nang Cheng managed to escape and made her way to the police, who responded shortly after. But by then, the thieves had already escaped. The home invasion was caught on surveillance camera and the horrifying footage has been leaked. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports.
The frightening ordeal was caught on surveillance camera. Just after 7 on Monday night, tax collector Nan Cheng, along with her 3 children, ages 1, 3, and 8, and her parents, both in their 60s, were inside their house in the American Embassy residential area of Belmopan when 3 armed masked men breached the house. And what happened later is being described by the family as inhumane. The thieves fought with Cheng's 66-year-old father, Mark Fang Ling, but not before taking her youngest child hostage. They brandished a knife, an axe, and a machete, and the incredible footage captured how, as the elderly man is being fought to the ground, the 8-year-old is pinned down in a chair as the bandit hovers the machete above him. The baby is then picked up, while the eldest child forced to lay down on the ground.
3 persons entered with machete, from what I am told. I know that among the items stolen is a firearm belonging to Ms. Chen, and perhaps a few pieces of jewelry, but nothing much was stolen.
When we met with the family today, they were too distraught to comment, as the entire family has been left traumatized, especially since Cheng says the thieves attempted to kidnap the baby. The family was tied up and locked in a room. Mark Fang Ling was stabbed to the right hand and he had a wound on his head. But by the time police got to the scene and entered the premises, the thieves had already escaped with some items.
I do not want to speculate at this time as to a possible motive, but we know that a few items were stolen. From the initial information we gathered was that the accused persons or the home invaders had hostage the residents of that premises. And so we surrounded the house with the hope that the suspects were still inside. And after a couple of hours outside, we decided to force our way in, and when we got in, we only found the residents of the residents, and the suspects were no longer there. From what we gathered from those residents was that the suspect had left prior to the police arrival, which was not consistent with our information we had received initially.
Police combed the area for clues, and Compol Chester Williams says that all 3 persons were of Hispanic descent.
We remained on spot until after 12 midnight last night. Then we did some searches in the neighboring communities with a view to see if we would be able to find those who are responsible. But that was fruitless.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
On Monday, Attorney Dickie Bradley and Attorney Leroy Banner represented 9 men from rural Belize District who appeared in the Orange Walk Magistrates Court after police intercepted them inside a boat on Hillbank Lagoon. Bradley told the media that his clients were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time when police caught them in the wee hours of last Friday. Police say that 2 bales of cocaine were found on the boat with the men and that they violated quarantine regulations. The 9 were arraigned and subsequently remanded for the joint charges of possession of a controlled drug with intent to supply and breach of curfew. Today we asked Commissioner Chester Williams about Bradley's comments. Here's what he had to say.
Dickie is my good friend, a very astute attorney. I have a lot of respect for him. And Dickie Bradley have a job to do as a defense counsel for those persons. And maybe perhaps Mr. Bradley was at the wrong place at the wrong time yesterday when he made those comments as well.
Prime Minister John Brisenia today announces picks for diplomatic postings. Ambassador-designate Lin Young will be posted in the United States of America and serves as Belize's permanent representative to the Organization of American States. Belize City Councilor Oscar Arnold has been chosen as Ambassador Designate to the United Mexican States. The former CEO in the Ministry of Agriculture, Jose Alpuche, is the country's Ambassador Designate to the Republic of China, while Therese Rath is High Commissioner Designate to the United Kingdom. Dr. Candice Pitts is Ambassador Designate to the Republic of China, Taiwan, and Sherry Nisbet is Ambassador Designate to the Republic of El Salvador. Luann Burns Martinez is Ambassador Designate to the Republic of Cuba. Carlos Fuller will be Belize's Permanent Representative Designate to the United Nations, and Alexis Rosado is now the Ambassador Designate to the Kingdom of Belgium, the European Union, and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. The CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Malemai has also been named the non-resident Ambassador Designate to SICA, and Lawrence Sylvester will continue to serve as Belize's non-resident ambassador to CARICOM. These new ambassador designates are tasked with the dual focus of bilateral relations and trade. Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney says the list represents an excellent blend of experienced and new diplomats, all well qualified and ready to represent Belize and Belizeans. Courtney says, quote, "I am excited to be a part of this new thrust of government and look forward to working with the designated diplomats for the benefit of Belize," unquote. We note that the ambassador designates have a fair share of professional women. Senior Counsel Oscar Sabido has been appointed as the new chairman of the Elections and Boundaries Commission. He succeeds fellow attorney Steve Pereira, who demitted office recently amid pressure from the People's United Party government, which called for his resignation from the post following his party's defeat at the polls during the November 11th general elections. Sabido assumes chairmanship of the commission 1 month before the next municipal elections. The appointment of Deputy Comptroller of Customs Estelle Leslie to the highest office within the Customs and Excise Department hasn't been without its share of controversy. Leslie, who succeeds Colin Griffith as Comptroller of Customs, was selected by the Bresenio administration in a process that saw senior customs officer Ian Haylock applying for the post. Leslie and Haylock have been with the department since 1989, when they both enlisted in the public service. It is Haylock's position, however, that he was passed over in favor of Leslie. He maintains that he has seniority as well as qualifications over his former colleague, and as a result has filed a claim before the Supreme Court to challenge the selection process via judicial review. This suit is being brought against the Prime Minister and Attorney General's ministries and filed on Haylock's behalf by former Prime Minister Dean Barrow and former Senate President Darrell Bradley. On Monday, a preliminary session was held virtually, during which Senior Counsel Andrew Marshallek appeared on Leslie's behalf. The matter resumes on Wednesday. It's no secret that over the years, members of the Belize Police Department at various ranks have been accused of being involved in narco-trafficking, whether facilitating the landing of drug planes or acting as mules transporting quantities of marijuana across the country. Several officers have been arrested and charged for their roles in illicit activities. And in light of the recent arrest of 3 lawmen following the landing of an aircraft on Friday morning, we revisited our archives to draw a brief picture of the connection between law enforcement and the criminal underworld.
The alleged involvement of corrupt police and Belize Defense Force personnel in illicit drug trade as facilitators of the transshipment process is a long-existing claim that dates back to the early aughts. As far back as 2001, former Assistant Commissioner of Police Hugh Kane was suspended from active duty after being served a letter by then-Compol Hewington Williams. It was asserted that Kane colluded with a well-known Mexican kingpin from the Juarez cartel, who was later busted in Belize City with over 1.5 tons of cocaine inside an apartment he was renting. Kane was subsequently retired from the Belize Police Department amid claims that the Drug Enforcement Agency had videotapes of a meeting between himself and the Mexican fugitive. On November 13, 2010, a significant bust was made when members of the Belize Special Assignment Group BSAG were called out to the scene of an airplane that had landed on the Southern Highway near Bladen Village. 2.6 tons, the equivalent of 80 bales of cocaine, were taken into custody. Implicated in the discovery were 5 persons, including Corporal Renell Grant, Sergeants Lawrence Humes and Jacinto Roches, Corporal Nelson Middleton, who at the time was assigned to Governor General Sir Colville Young as his driver, and Harold Usher, a customs boatman. They were found in the general vicinity of where the aircraft was located. At the time, the case against the 5 men was sensational because the seizure was recorded among the largest quantities of cocaine to be netted in Belize. In December 2012, the men were subsequently acquitted of the charge of facilitating the landing of a drug plane due to a lack of evidence before a retrial was ordered by the Court of Appeal. By then, however, the image of the Belize Police Department had already been tarnished. On September 9, 2018, another major cocaine haul was recorded when a single-engine aircraft that departed from Venezuela, laden with 26 bales of cocaine, landed in the Tres Lagos areas of Orange Walk. The bust succeeded a 45-minute shootout between law enforcement officers and the drug runners.
Since the latter part of last year, as you all are aware, we had seen an increased level of activity in terms of illicit aircraft trafficking through Belize's airspace. We've also seen where we've, in the past, recovered a plane as well. We've found at various scenes wreckages that have been burnt.
It is reminiscent of Friday's discovery, where the charred remains of an aircraft was found along with its contents intact not far away. In the wake of that landing back in 2018, Superintendent David Chi, the officer commanding Orange Walk Police Station at the time, and Police Constable Norman Anthony were arrested and charged for their purported roles in facilitating the landing of that aircraft. Going back to the wee early hours of Friday morning in a remote area between Lemonal and Crooked Tree Village, a team of off-duty police and BDF officers was in the vicinity when another drug plane landed. They were found in possession of 2 bales of cocaine inside a vessel in a nearby lagoon. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams shared his thoughts on their arrest.
It makes me feel good to know that we're catching them, and hopefully the rest who are involved will get the message, because if they don't, then they will just suffer the same fate as these ones and the ones before.
Sir, any internal investigation you're going to conduct in case the men were working with others in the department?
Of course, yes, the professional standard branch is here already, Mr. Sutherland, and he will be doing the internal aspect of the investigation. We are going to be applying for court orders to go through the phones of these individuals to see what we can gather from their phones, who they communicated with, and whatever we get will be used as evidence either in the criminal or in the disciplinary matter against them.
In the most recent case, while the men were not found in possession of all the illicit cargo that was on board the aircraft, Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa, himself an attorney, believes that the rogue cops and soldier will be convicted.
Previously, while we had our suspicions and we gathered evidence, and I'm talking under the last administration in relation to drug plane landing, it was never so clear-cut. It might be that you found an officer in a particular area and they were saying that they were fishing and they had their fishing lines to prove it and no drugs were found on them. And so it depends on a case-by-case basis. But I fully agree with you that in this particular case, we should see convictions, because in this case, the drugs were found in the possession. It's very rare that you actually get a bust like that.
Reporting for News 5, I am Sana Cayetano.
The cost per gallon of regular gasoline is inching up by another 51 cents on Wednesday, when it goes from $9.27 to $9.78. If it's any comfort to consumers, the prices for premium gasoline, kerosene, and diesel remain unchanged at $9.89, $6.46, and $8.74 per gallon, respectively. The change in prices reflects the current supply and demand conditions of crude oil on the international petroleum market. Still to come, police need help identifying the driver in a fatal hit and run. There was a shooting in Punta Gorda town on Monday morning that has left one man hospitalized. Police report that Charles Nines was chopping a school compound at around 10:15 that morning when a man he knows approached him. The man took out a 9mm pistol and fired several shots, injuring Nunez. Police say that Nunez was rushed to the Punta Gorda hospital where he is stable. The investigation into this latest shooting incident is ongoing and no one has been arrested. Meanwhile, police need your help to identify the driver and vehicle that left one man dead in a hit and run. The crash occurred in St. Matthew's Village on Sunday night. Police report that two men were walking on the roadside when a car hit one of the men from behind. The driver never stopped to render aid, and now the police are trying to identify the vehicle and the driver.
Police were called to St. Matthew's Village at the scene of a fatal road traffic accident where they met and spoke with one Hugo Juarez, who reported to police that shortly before 8 p.m. himself and Mauricio Cortez were walking on the side of the highway from a west to east direction when suddenly he heard a loud bang coming from behind and realized that Cortez was hit by a dark-colored small car which sped off, leaving him on the ground injured. Upon police arrival at the scene, Cortez had apparently already died. The scene was processed and the body was removed to the Western Regional Hospital where it was pronounced dead. We at this time are seeking the public's assistance in trying to identify that small dark-colored car which was eastbound at the time of the accident.
Police have made progress in a shooting that took place in Belize City. On Monday evening, Jervis Valencia was shot several times while sitting in a yard in an alley in the Mayflower area. Police arrested and charged one man in connection with the shooting. The cops say that the attack resulted from internal gang warfare.
Reference the shooting of Jervis Diamond that occurred Tuesday. We have since arrested and charged Kareem Kelly, 21 years of Mayflower, for the crimes of dangerous harm, attempt murder, and use of deadly means of harm.
Sir, if you could just go over the circumstances of that shooting for us.
This is a shooting that occurred in the Mayflower area, and this is as a result of internal fighting within that group of persons in that area.
Officials from the Ministry of Home Affairs, including Minister Karim Musa, were invited to a tour of the police headquarters in Belmopan. Earlier, Minister Musa had a tour of the Eastern Division headquarters in Belize City, and during a visit with Commissioner Williams in the capital today, the minister met with senior command at the various departments. Commissioner Williams shared some details on that visit.
The minister and I meet regularly to discuss our different policing strategies as well as to look at where we are crime-wise. As you would know that shortly after the minister took over, he did a tour of Eastern Division, meeting with all the senior command. And so this morning he went over by my office for a specific reason in terms of looking at some issues of welfare. And after that was over, I invited the minister to take a tour around headquarters to familiarize himself with headquarters and the staff at headquarters. So he was open for it, and we did the tour, and he was very excited for what he saw.
The Briceño administration has begun budget consultations ahead of his first budget to be presented in March. The government has formed two teams to carry out consultations with relevant stakeholders. Minister of Education Francis Fonseca, Deputy Prime Minister Cordell Hyde, Public Service Minister Henry Charles are accompanied by a technical team and tasked with meeting with the Public Service Union and the Belize National Teachers Union to discuss the way forward. Prime Minister Briceño and Minister Christopher Koyi will be meeting with the private sector and social partners to also discuss the fiscal imbalance. The government continues to borrow about $1 million a day to meet salaries. and Briceño had stated several times that the PUP is not a government of retrenchment. The Briceño administration has yet to meet with the teachers' union, and National President Elena Smith says she hopes the meeting occurs sooner rather than later.
We hope that that meeting is going to come by quickly, because we are already in February. You know, March is budget time, and so this is a period when they should be preparing. And so we want to ensure that before they get to that point, that there is that discussion between at least the three unions who negotiate with the government. And we are hoping that we would be able to get that invitation very soon, that we can start those discussions.
So our economy is still in a bad state. Prime Minister Briceño said that they want to avoid retrenchment. They are not a party or government of retrenchment, but they're still borrowing, I think, a little less than $1 million to meet salaries and day-to-day operational expenses. Are teachers prepared to take a salary cut?
You know, that's a difficult question to answer at this time. We do understand the country's situation, but we also understand and we also recognize as well that due to the situation of the pandemic, a lot of our teachers, their spouses, have lost jobs, and so they have gone from having 2 incomes in a household to now only having 1. And it's going to be very difficult if it is that we are going to now be looking at reduction in salary. If it is that you went from a 2-income household to now a 1-income household, it's going to have a bigger impact on those teachers and public officers. So those are things that we would have to, look at in terms of what we would finally agree to, and how it is that we would, work on compensation for that down the road. So I don't think that all in all, teachers don't understand the situation. Again, we have to ensure that whatever we negotiate is going to be fair, and that the government, in putting forth those types of situations to us and asking us to make those kinds of sacrifices, we have to be sure that the government is going to be doing its part as well. So you can't be asking me to make sacrifices for the country, and then as a government you continue spending recklessly, or you are not doing what it is that you can do in other areas, to reduce the expenses of the government. So it has to be a situation where if we are going to sacrifice, then we will all sacrifice together.
On January 21st, managements of all schools, the BNTU and the Belize Teaching Services Commission received a memo from the Ministry of Education indicating that all approvals for study leave with pay were suspended. Chief Education Officer Yolanda Gonkora stated that this decision was made due to the fiscal constraints caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the memo, the suspension is until further notice. When the memo was issued, BNTU National President Elena Smith got on the phone with ministry officials because concerns were quickly identified with the decision. And according to Smith, a meeting was later held during which the ministry accepted the union's concerns.
When the memo came out, we had to call the ministry because it wasn't really clear. It didn't specify when it would have been effective, and it didn't specify for how long. And then we had other concerns as it relates to those teachers who would have been disenfranchised due to their licensing coming to an end because they would not have been able to get the study leave to complete whatever studies they were doing. As you may be aware, a lot of our teachers do their degrees part-time, and when they get, let's say, maybe a year or so into the end of their course, they would apply for study leave so that they could complete that within a specified period of time, keeping in mind that they have a 5-year thing to deal with in terms of the license. So we want to ensure that those teachers who were in that situation would not be disenfranchised. So for those teachers who would have been at a place where they would have needed that leave to assist them, then the ministry agreed in principle that they would sit with us, the union and us, and we would agree on how it is that we would assist those teachers. So we were asked, our suggestions or recommendations in terms of how can we do that, and we gave our recommendations, and we are glad that the ministry accepted those recommendations right at that meeting. However, those were just verbal discussions, and we had to have them in black and white, because we don't want at the end of the day to hear that, well, we didn't agree to that, or it wasn't that way. So we said, listen, despite the fact that we are agreeing right on that we are going to be taking these measures to help our teachers, we want to meet again, and we want to flesh out those, those agreements, put them in black and white, that our teachers can have them in black and white, that they will know what they need to do. So if a teacher's license would have been affected, we would put things in place to assist that teacher.
A group of teachers at Punta Gorda St. Peter Claver Primary School have expressed their discontent with the assistant local manager for the district's school. Since 2020, that is, the teachers have been registering their discontent to the school's board and the Ministry of Education. One of those teachers is Ray Martinez, who told News 5 on Monday that the assistant local manager has been undermining the administrative principal for quite too long. The relevant authorities have yet to address the teachers' concern, but the Belize National Teachers Union has noted the tensions at the school, and National President Smith says the union is ready to intervene if the teachers request it.
We are aware, and when I say aware, I want to be very clear in that the teachers who have the concerns wrote to their general manager, and they copied us in that email. And so because we were copied in the email, we were able to see, what were the concerns that they have in terms of their local manager and admin at the school. So they have not, however, requested for BNTU to assist them in addressing the matter. As a union, when a teacher has an issue, we don't just go out there and take on the issue. The teacher has to request that we intervene, or that we assist them in addressing the matter, and that is when we come in. So without that request, we won't just jump up and just go and do that. So we had been informed. The branch president had indicated to us that there was a situation. As I said, we were copied in the mail. Another mail was sent just recently, and again it wasn't addressed to us, but we were copied in it. So we have been aware of those issues. I spoke to one of the teachers yesterday. I called him and I spoke to him with regards to the situation, and I reminded him again that we are here, and if it is that they need us to come in and intervene, then they can always let us know. Call and say, listen, we want you to come in, or send us an email, and we will be more than willing to step in and have a discussion with them.
After the break, dialysis patients plead for better streets. Poor road conditions are a perennial problem across the country as infrastructure remains a critical issue in urban and rural areas. It's no secret that Belize City has a street infrastructure problem, and although works have been done over the years to improve the streets, a lot more needs to be done. Tonight we'll tell you about one street that is in urgent need of repairs for a few years now. And while short-term efforts are made ever so often, users of the street are clamoring for a more permanent solution. It's a street that sees a fair amount of traffic, as it is where the dialysis center is situated, and users of this essential service say that the road condition has been a pain in their side for far too long. Here's that story.
This is St. Peter's Street in Belize City. For the past 2 years, it has been deteriorating, and users of the street, motorists and pedestrians alike, say that it has become a real problem that they have to deal with every day. The patients and workers of the Dialysis del Caribe Center knows this all too well, as the center is located on the street and sits directly in front of these large potholes. Glenn Tillett is a patient of this center.
I have been coming here 3 times a week for 2 or 3 years. And I've seen the street deteriorate. And it has been deteriorating. I think that, right now the street there's a house there. So when school is in, there's also a problem for the children who have to pass through here on their way to school. The students and teachers that are also, and I believe some church goers as well.
Motorists drive slowly along the stretch to minimize damage to their vehicles as they navigate these potholes. And other drivers want to avoid the craters altogether and now are driving on the sidewalk. As you can see, that action is now destroying the path for pedestrians. The sidewalk has caved in at different points.
At this point, the sidewalk is brick and traffic here has been definitely the problem, and I exacerbated with the recent rain.
So this street is not just a problem for the motorists, but also the pedestrians.
It is, when it rains, you can't walk. I do wish they would address it with some urgency, because my heart goes out to the women in particular who work there.
According to people in the area, the problem is worsening and a long-term solution has been slow in coming. Tillett says that the short-term remedies on St. Peter's Street can only work for so long. The street needs permanent improvements similar to works on nearby streets. So today we reached out to Belize City Councillor Albert Vaughn, who is responsible for works. He says that some remedies will begin this coming weekend and the long-term solution is already in the pipeline.
The mayor have found me a little money left there to actually address the street Saturday. I must say I really understand the concern people using the dialysis center have with the street. It's terrible. It's part of those old Belize City streets, and I think the plan, as me and the mayor discussed, is that we are going to rip that whole street, and we are going to do it over. No, we're going to raise it. We're going to open those drains.
When can we see these works begin or completed?
Well, the temporary work will begin Saturday. I will get the temporary work start Saturday. But we have to take it to caucus because it's money now, and we'll have to put it in our work program that we actually contract out the street and we get it done like what we did with Hoshna Crescent. So yes, Saturday we will begin that work. We wanted to start earlier, but we have been advised that this cold front will bring rain again. Council strapped for cash, and so yes, we are a bit behind with getting these streets, but we are doing our best. We keep patching, but it keep washing out. So that cannot work. So it has to be raised, get the drain properly flowing, and get that street up.
How long do you think a work like that would take to complete?
It won't take long, about 6 weeks.
Vaughn says remedial works will be done to 2 portions of St. Peter's Street on Saturday. Vaughn also assured us that St. Peter's Street is on the list of streets for a long-term fix, which will see the street chipped and sealed. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
On Saturday, the PUP held its Belize City Council convention to select the PUP 11 to contest the March municipal elections. Mayor Bernard Wagner will be contesting for the mayoral seat against the UDP's Orson Pickard. The 10 PUP councillors include some newcomers like cyclist Kaya Katus and Edmund Kwan. But there are a few familiar faces like Micah Gooding, Alan Pollard, and Albert Vaughan. When we caught up with Vaughan, we asked him about the feeling going into elections next month and if he feels the current council has done enough to get a second term in office.
I am a man of service. I love to serve. I love to be a part of the growing of the city, and so I believe to complete my work here at the council, I need another term. And so I offer myself. You know, I'm a retiree. I could have sat home like many other people and enjoy politics. But I believe I am more better when I'm a part of it. And so I offer myself. The delegates last Saturday had confidence in me, and they elect me again to run for the next city council. So I am thankful to them. I must say thanks to each and every delegate who showed up. And also my other candidates who supported me as well. So that's why I put in my name. It's about service. I love to serve.
Do you believe the Belize City residents will return the PUP slate into office once more in March? Do you think you guys have done enough, though?
Yeah, I think we have done enough. And of course, there are a lot more to be done. But compare this council, we're 3 years old. We have on our record almost 30-yard street, 40-yard street that we have either chip and seal or upgrade. Yes, I am very confident that the people of Belize City understand that this council, PUP council, have worked under a UDP central government who said that we would not have lasted 6 months. We did. And we did many things, unprecedented than what we have done. Look around Belize City.
And about that convention. While the UDP opted for a virtual event earlier this month, the PUP held an event that attracted a large gathering. There are concerns about it being a possible COVID spreader. With numbers declining, did the PUP get too relaxed to host this event? Today we asked Councillor Albert Vaughan about this concern, and here's what he had to say.
Are you any at all worried that perhaps that convention would lead to some spread of COVID in the city? We saw our numbers going down. Any concerns, any at all on your end?
Yes. As a responsible city, I do have concern. I regret, as a matter of fact, that it happened that way. But, you know, the party made a decision that they're going to have a convention. I wanted to run. If I didn't show up, I would not have got elected. But yes, there should be a level of concern, I'm sure.
Were people careful out there that day, following all the protocols? Do you believe the citizens were responsible?
I do believe they at some point, yes. In particular, my people out there, we sanitize, we wear our masks, we try our best to hold our social distance. And yes, I think they were.
Call centers continue to operate from their respective offices across the country under strict guidelines that are in line with COVID-19 safety measures. Those regulations include the washing or sanitization of hands, the use of face masks, and the requisite 6 feet distance. In enforcing those measures, the Belize Police Department is authorized to conduct spot checks at various locations. This afternoon at the Icons building on Newtown Barracks, a team of officers stopped by Ready Call to ensure that employees, as well as their bosses, were adhering to those regulations. A handful of employees were observed standing outside of the building as the random inspection was being carried out. To the best of our knowledge, the spot check did not result in any arrests. And in regional news, Barbados has secured 100,000 Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines from India through an effort led by Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Mottley reached out to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in mid-January, expressing that the island nation was facing a strangely challenging situation and was interested in a donation, as well as purchase of vaccines from India where they are being produced. In reaching out to Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney for comment on Belize's efforts on the diplomatic front, he told News 5, quote, "The government, through the Ministry of Health and Wellness, has been pursuing several options to procure the vaccines, including the COVAX facility. So far, contacts have been made with a number of friendly countries and/or requests are under consideration." Unquote. There's more news after the break, so stay tuned. A new commission has been sworn in to investigate the fire sale of government assets prior to the last general elections. The ceremony took place on Monday here in Belize City, but is scheduled for when the hearings commence, and how long the inquiry will take is yet to be determined. There are several logistical considerations to be made, and according to Chairman Andrew Marshallek, a list of witnesses need to be established prior to the start of the process.
It is difficult to set a time limit because you don't know what you will find. But whatever we find, we have to get to the bottom of it. We will certainly start the process quickly and endeavor to do it within a reasonable time. We understand that commissions in Belize, the experience has always been that it takes years. We don't expect that at this point in time. Apart from the logistical concerns of arranging venue and streaming and the like, it's just a matter of the commission meeting, settling the first list of witnesses, issuing and serving the summonses, and getting started.
Security of tenure is what Acting Chief Justice Michelle Arana is clamoring for on behalf of the judiciary. But there is concern that a new law will threaten their stay on the bench. The proposed legislation is still in its infancy, but there is mounting concern about its consequences. Not only will the piece of law guarantee that decisions are rendered in a timely manner, according to Attorney General Magali Marinyang, it will not discriminate against the bench.
This measure is not to victimize judges. It is to hold them more accountable. It is to have them uphold their constitutional duty to ensure that trials are done within a reasonable time and fairly.
The Belize Police Department came into disrepute once again on Friday when several officers were arrested in connection with a drug plane landing in northern Belize District. That story dominated the evening newscast and may have stolen the thunder from their female colleagues, who secured a legal victory earlier that day in the Supreme Court. A group of 5 officers, all women, who wear dreadlocks, filed a claim before the court challenging the disciplinary measures taken against them regarding their freedom of expression, in this case, their hairstyles. The action taken against the women can be viewed as a form of racial discrimination. According to Commissioner of Police Chester Williams, while he believes in freedom of expression, when it comes to a disciplined organization such as the police department, there must be rules for women to abide by.
The truth is, the female or the officers involved, they have been working, and we have no issues. Some of them have been promoted, even with the dreadlocks. And the court ruling is the court ruling. That's the reason why we have a court system. The court looks at laws, and where the court finds that certain laws or certain rules are inconsistent with the Constitution, it is the court's duty to point it out to us, and then we must make amends to our policies. And so I have absolutely no issue with the court ruling.
So what's your position on natural hair in a professional environment?
Well, yes, I do believe that women should be able to express themselves, particularly in terms of how their natural appearance is supposed to be. I do believe that when it comes to a professional organization, that there must be some guidelines that women should be able to follow. Now, the guidelines must not be too rigid that it takes away from them the ability to express themselves. When it comes to police, BDF, Coast Guard, we are a disciplinary organization, and the fact that the nature of our work allows us to interact with people and may even come into some degree of, at times, some degree of struggle with people. Like, for example, a police going to arrest someone. You don't want to have your hair in a style that the person that you may go to arrest will use your hair as a weapon against you.
Last Friday, the first of its kind child-friendly interview room was established in the San Ignacio Police Station. It is a result of a partnership between UNICEF Belize and the Belize Police Department through the Juvenile Justice Program. According to a release from UNICEF, the new space signifies, quote, police's responsibility to provide safety and protection to children in their workspace, workforce, investigative and procedural formalities, behavior and mannerisms, unquote. When we come back, staying fit and staying healthy, what gyms look like in a pandemic.
Love is the
It's the second day that gyms across the country have been able to reopen since the first case of COVID-19 was recorded in March 2020. Since then, gyms have been ordered to close, but new regulations announced on Friday have allowed for gyms to be open with 50% capacity. The prolonged closure has affected the business of gyms across the country. And today News 5's reporter Hippolyte Novello found out that gym owners are still struggling to keep their businesses running.
It's been months since the government ordered a shutdown of all gyms to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. The news dealt a near-fatal blow to gym owners who for many months lost thousands of dollars and dozens of members.
The gyms for me is like over 60% of my income for the month, or you could say year, what's not now. So when it was closed from since March 20th last year, it took a toll on me, personally, financially as well too, and we've been trying to survive, basically just in survival mode.
And if being closed wasn't bad enough, owner of Body 2000 on Coney Drive, Mark Neal, was still being charged a trade license fee. Body 2000 was closed for almost a year, and Neal still had to pay more than $4,000 in the license fee.
Oh, it's a challenge. It's very, very difficult. And the thing is, like, you close, but the bills keep coming because you cannot just cut your bills off, because then you have to go through all the changes back, and reply and pay all that different type of money. The also thing that bother me is that you also have to pay City Council the trade license. In trade license, for this size of building, you're talking about $4,300.
Neil and Gordon Gym on Cemetery Road in Belize City was effectively put in a coma, and the gym owner was forced to be creative, hosting sessions online to keep members and generate whatever revenue he can.
For me, during the pandemic, I went online. I went full online, Zoom, my clients. We did a lot of running as well in the evening times. They're giving us the opportunity to open up back, and I appreciate that. And we do our best to follow regulations and guidelines set by them, you know.
Okay, so how are you doing so in terms of keeping safety within the gym?
Well, I know some of the rules they had was to have hand sanitizer around. People signing as you walked in, like you can see over there as well too. And the testers to make sure your temperature is under 97 degrees Fahrenheit, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So we've been following up that, and right now we have a max capacity of around 22 people per hour, per session then I should say. So it gives them enough space for social distancing, and you know, tell them to please have the mask on.
So now the news of gyms being allowed to open with 50% capacity is welcome. And these gym owners have to abide by specific rules to prevent an increase of COVID cases. At Bali 2000, there are signs everywhere. Wherever you turn, there is a hand sanitizer, and clients have to follow a very specific rule.
Before you use, you wipe. After you use, you wipe. And then from there on, you also alcohol your hand after you finish wipe. So it's a process that you go through. Once you're a member of a gym, you will know that it's a process that you go through before you use any equipment. You wipe it, and when you're done, you wipe it.
And so far, members are slowly returning to the gyms.
Good, it's been okay. We had over 65 people yesterday. Not at once, of course, you know, throughout the day. So Neil and Gordon's loyal coming back slowly. I appreciate them as well too. And we're thankful for that. We're happy. A few of them put on some weight. Some lost some weight, you know.
It's picking up slowly, but today is a more brighter day, more active day. That thing. I think going on up in the week will be, you know, people got bills and stuff. Yeah. But they're looking forward because it is frustrating to go to bed at 8 and wake up before in the morning early. So people are looking forward. We get a lot of phone calls. We're getting the appointments set in and stuff. You have to call first, make your appointment.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.